Welcome to Mountain Man Explore the Truth. How's everybody doing today or tonight, depending on the time you're listening to the podcast? I hope you are doing well, my friends. Tonight we'll be welcoming on Al Santariga. I hope I said your last name correct. Maybe it's Santariga. I apologize, Al, if I said your last name incorrect. You can correct me through the interview. I'm terrible with names. Anyways, we're going to be welcoming him on, talking about his Bigfoot expeditions and get into some of the topics on that and his history of all kinds of interesting stuff with paranormal and you name it. I'll let him come on and discuss all that stuff and we'll get into it and see where it takes us. Maybe we won't have enough time to finish it all, but maybe we will get into a good portion of his stuff, and if not, I'll have to have him come right back on the show. I'm really interested in having him on, so be patient. I'll be bringing him on here shortly. Thank you. Today we welcome on Al. Al, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Blake. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here, man.
It's awesome. Go ahead and tell people about yourself.
Name's Al Santariga. I'm the founder of the Bronxville Paranormal Society here in New York State. Started off as a ghost hunting team, and just kind of me and my team, all who are like-minded people, we all kind of believed that everything was connected. You know, UFOs and Bigfoot, cryptids and ghosts, and it kind of just took off from there. My mom was a psychic, and my brother was one of the first parapsychologists in the United States. So the paranormal was always normal for me and my family. And that's just a quick, brief bio.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Sounds like you definitely got some stuff on your belt for sure. Well, let's get into some of your Bigfoot stuff you were telling me about.
Okay, so last October, I went out squatching. I have a location, we call it the Sacred Site. And the reason we call it the Sacred Site is because it's on a high plateau off of the Appalachian Trail here in New York. And it's surrounded by megalithic stones set up in a giant circle. And each megalithic stone has hundreds of stones on top of it. And when I found it, I called my psychic, and she said that it was built by white men in robes thousands of years ago. And she said that the Native Americans used it as a sacred site, and now the Sasquatch use it as a sacred site. And of course, it had all the traditional signs: the arches, the X, the bends, the breaks, the twists, had everything. You know what I mean? And but the energy of the location is so amazing. Like, you get up there and it's so peaceful, and the energy is so calming that you don't want to leave once you're there, because you're like euphoric, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I've been going there for years now. I have a rapport with the Sasquatches, the clan in that area. There is a high ridge that their home range is over. I don't necessarily ever go up the high ridge. I respect their space. I've never gone over into their range. Recently, I have gone up the high ridge and found all kinds of stuff up on the ridge, but that's for another day. So October, it was me and my cousin Sean was going out. Sean is a 20-year-old kid, just getting into the paranormal, and he had never gone out squatching before. As a matter of fact, this may have been his very first experience when we went out, and we got to the location. And that was October, it was Friday the 13th. There was a solar eclipse that day, and it was 1% of the moon that night. And I wanted to do a lot of, I do like 250 environmental readings when I go out now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm more about energy and how it changes with different things that you incorporate into the location. And so we went out there, me and my cousin Sean. I called my team psychic and Cindy, and she said, okay, the veil is very thin tonight. Be careful. She said we were going to run across something that she called a bad.
I was going to ask you about that, because usually right around that time, the veil it opens up. And I hear a lot of things about that. So that's pretty interesting that you bring that up.
Oh yeah, she said be very, very careful. The veil was wide open, and
Wow.
she said she seen something that looked like a bear squatch. Now let me explain something about my psychic Cindy.
Hmm.
She's part Native American. She lives in Arkansas. She reads everything through me. She says I'm a conduit. Okay, and we've been working together for a dozen years, and we argue like a married couple. Okay, it's because that's just our relationship. So
That's awesome.
we're sitting there, and she's reading the energy. She says, "I see something that looks like I'm going to call it a bear squatch. I've never seen it before. It comes from a different realm. Doesn't know what people are. It's going to come in and check you guys out. Be very careful because this thing is dangerous." So I was like, okay, we see it. We'll make sure to keep our distance. And she starts talking about I introduced her to my cousin Sean, and she says, okay, she's reading the energy. Now I always have her read everybody's energy before I go out, because some people go out with subconscious fear, and I can't take those people with me. I got to leave them behind because things will attach to you. You're like a beacon if you have subconscious fear. And she had read my cousin Sean before we got out. She said Sean is fine. He's got paranormal psychic abilities. So we're sitting there and we're talking, and she says, Sean is part Native American. Now I didn't know that on his mother's side there was Native American blood, and Sean says, yeah, my mom's parents are Native American on her mother's side or whatever it was. And so then my psychic Cindy says to me, you have I see Native American blood in you, Al. She says, I'm like, nope, I'm 100% Italian. There's no Native American blood in me. And she's like, now again, Cindy says stuff that is so crazy that, being from New York, me and my team, we break her chops all the time. Okay.
Hmm.
But at the end of the night, everything she says usually comes true. So she's insisting that I have Native American blood in me. And Sean is sitting there listening to us argue back and forth. I was like, no, my father's from Rome. My mother's from Northern Italy. I'm 100% Italian. I don't have no Native American blood. And she's like, don't tell me. I see your blood and Native American blood mixing together. And then a little light bulb went off on my head. When I was about 18 years old, I hung out with a motley crew of guys. Everybody was like a different nationality. And one of the guys was part Apache. And we did a blood brother ritual where we sliced our hands open and we did the blood brother. And that's what she was seeing, his blood and my blood intermixing. And that was so long ago. Man, totally forgot all about it. And it just blew my mind when she said it, you know what I mean? Because, man, it was like 40 years ago. And it was just mind-boggling. I couldn't believe she was seeing something that was that old.
Yeah, that's
But
interesting.
yeah, no, I mean, like, and it was funny because I'm arguing with her, and my cousin Sean is listening to us. He's laughing hysterical, like it's like you guys like a married couple. And so anyway, she says to us, she says, she also sees these things that are showing themselves to her as elves. She says, but they're not elves. Their energy is wrong. She said, they're not elf energy. And she said,
Wow.
be careful with these things because they're tricksters. And they can pull a chair out from you. They can trip you. They can do stupid things like that. And she said, just be careful with these things.
It almost
And we're like,
sounds
oh,
like little people to me.
yeah, no. She didn't call them little people. She called them elves. She said she called them tricksters. She said, but they were lying to her when they showed themselves to her. They were showing them to her as something that she wasn't. But anyway, she said, be careful with these guys because we're off the beaten path. We're 4 miles deep in the woods, and she's and the Appalachian Trail that we have to take to get to this location is like a goat trail. It's very, very rocky. It's very, very
Hmm.
dangerous. And she's like, I don't want you guys getting pushed or tripped. And hitting your head on a rock. So she said, be very careful. They're like, okay, no problem. So we're sitting there, and let me see where I'm at. My thing. So my cousin and I start setting up for the night. What I like to do is I like to set up different colored glow sticks around me. Okay. I usually use like 5 different glow sticks or 6 different colored glow sticks. And then what I'll do is I'll put an EMF meter next to each glow stick. And I have 3 EMF meters, and I have 3 of those little cat balls that light up, if you touch them.
Mm-hmm.
And I put those out there with the glow sticks. This way, if anything comes next to them, touches the cat balls, they'll light up. If there's anything going to like touch the glow sticks, and it's giving off the EMF meters will light up and stuff like that. And I also use glow sticks for ambient light in front of us. I don't light any fires. I just throw some glow sticks around us. I mean, we have headlamps on and everything, but I keep the headlamps off. I like to keep it as dark as possible. And so we're sitting there and we're hanging out, and I got video of this too. We're sitting there, and it's like we're in a void, and I'm like, it's like I'm thinking to myself, I'm breaking out all my meters. I got 250 different readings I do, and everything is coming up 0, flatlining. And I'm like, this is impossible because there's energy all around us all the time. And I'm trying to explain to Sean because it's his first time out. I've never had this happen here. And every time I come here, there's all kinds of different energy. I've got all kinds of different readings from different measurements from different pieces of equipment, and we're getting nothing, absolutely nothing. And we got a thermal imager going, we got a full spectrum camera going, and we have a night vision camera going. We got them pointed in 3 different directions, and we're seeing absolutely nothing. There's nothing around us. And in my mind, I'm thinking, man, I feel like I'm in a black void. And we're almost like we were encased in glass. You know what I mean? Some kind of dome. But we were looking out into a black void. There's no animal life. And as I'm thinking this, I feel like we're in a black, in a void. My cousin Sean turns to me and goes, "Man, it feels like we're in a void. There's nothing, it feels like we're not seeing anything, And
It
I was
almost,
like, what made you say that, dude? Because I was just thinking it,
it's
Yeah.
amazing because it almost sounds like you guys went through like a little portal or something like that.
Maybe a time space continuum, some kind of time space slip. I'm not sure. I
Wow.
mean, we didn't move. We were sitting down at the same
That's crazy, man.
location. I mean, so I'm breaking out all of my stuff. Like if it's a dead night and there's nothing happening, I have certain rituals I do that usually sparks things, gets things going. So I'll light up some incense. I got a certain amount of incense that I'll light up that I know will attract the Sasquatches. So I light up the incense and I fill the woods with this fragrance, and I check my meters. Nothing. It's still 0. Everything's flatline. Okay. So then I break out. What I use is a Tibetan singing bowl, and I fill the woods with frequency and vibration. I just with the Tibetan singing bowl never fails, and I check my meters. Nothing. I break out a Native American powwow ceremony, but not just an average regular ceremony. I'm using a shaman ceremony, and this always makes stuff happen. And I said I put the recording out there, and then I go and I check my instruments. Nothing, flatlined. I'm not getting anything coming in. I'm not hearing anything. And Sean's looking at me and I'm looking at him. And then we hear a Bigfoot scream on the other side of the lake. The lake is a 52-acre lake behind us on the east side of the woods. And the east side of the woods is usually the dog man side of the woods.
Oh,
I
wow.
know there's a dog man den there because I've seen it. And so we hear the Bigfoot go off and he screams. And then he's running north up the woods in the pitch black and he's screaming, but he's screaming every 3 seconds. And every 3 seconds when he screams, he sounds like he's a mile away. And like my cousin is like, dude, can they really run that fast? Because every time he screams, it's like he's getting further and further away, you know? And I'm like, I don't know. I've never seen one run, you know? I've seen them walk.
Yeah.
I've seen them, just lumber around, but I've never seen one actually chase anything down. And I'm like, I don't know what to tell this kid because I'm at a loss. What
Yeah.
can go a mile, unless it's jumping in and out of time slips, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um,
that's where I hear a lot of reports and I mean encounters as well that people say that when they experience these Bigfoot things that they'll see an orb, right? And they feel like they're going through like a portal in and out of our time, like coming into our reality into it from their reality. And that might explain why we only see one footprint or maybe two footprints. Yeah, I know some footprints that become one might be a hoax, but I don't know. Some of them have pretty good details to them. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
yeah, no, I totally believe that they're interdimensional. There's no doubt in my mind about it. The Native Americans, I'm very close with the Iroquois nation up here, and they talk about them being supernatural. They
Mm-hmm.
walk between worlds. That's what they say.
Oh yeah.
And so, so I'm telling my cousin, unless he's jumping in and out of portals, that's the only way he can move as fast as he can move, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're sitting there, and earlier in the day, while it was still daylight out, we had a helicopter fly over us. Okay, now I have two digital voice recorders going, one at each end of the sacred site. The one at the west end of the site is voice activated, and the one behind us runs continuously for 72 hours. So and it's all of a sudden, we're sitting there and we hear a helicopter hovering over us. Again, this is the fall. There's no leaves on the trees. All the leaf litter is on the ground, and we hear this helicopter. And I'm thinking it may be a black ops helicopter. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And we're sitting there, but we can't see it. There's nothing in the sky, but we can feel the percussion of the blades.
Wow.
We can see the leaf litter getting blown all over the place, but there's nothing hovering above us, above the tree line. I mean, and
Wow.
we're at a loss. We're looking at each other like, my cousin's looking at me like, yo, cuz, what the hell is this? I'm like, I don't know what to tell you, dude. I don't know if the United States has this kind of technology where they can make helicopters invisible, but obviously we're dealing with a helicopter because we can feel the percussion of the blades and we can see the leaf litter flying all over the place.
So
So
some kind of like camouflage thing going on, huh? Like the Predator or something like that with the
something
helicopter.
like that. I mean, honest to God, I should have recorded it at the time, but I guess the energy of the place made me loopy because I didn't record it. But again, my cousin is sitting right next to me and I'm validating
Oh
everything
yeah.
through him. Are you seeing this? Are you hearing that? And he's hearing
Mm-hmm.
and seeing everything that I'm seeing. And then later that night, helicopter comes back again.
Really?
And now it's pitch black and the helicopter is above us. And we both have headlamps that shoot 700 feet. All right. We turn them on and they go from floods to zooms. And we zoom up into the sky and we're looking for this helicopter. and our headlamps are going way above the top of the trees. You know what I mean? And we're not seeing anything. So I said, you know what? I'm going to get my laser, and let's see when the laser, bends or stops. I'll know what his helicopter is, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm pointing this green, powerful laser up in the sky, trying to hit what's ever above us. And the damn thing is just going off into infinity. It's like it's not hitting anything.
Wow.
It just didn't make any sense. It didn't make. So we're sitting there and we're hanging out, and I'm telling my cousin, "Oh, this is amazing because I got the voice recorder going behind us. We're gonna get the helicopters. We're gonna get the Bigfoot whoop in." And at one point, we hear what sounds like a train go by. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so we hear this. We hear this train go by. The whistle's blowing, and my cousin says, "Is there a train tracks around here?" And I go, "Yeah, about a mile and a half to the south, there are tracks." I said, "But there are no trains that run on those tracks." And he goes, "Well, how do you know that?" I said, "Because there's a location of the tracks that I want to investigate. But the only way to get to it is via the tracks. And I didn't want to be on the tracks of a train comes roaring down the tracks at me. So what I did is I went to the state police because the road crosses over the tracks and there's no safety arms there, right?
Yeah.
I go to the state police and I say, "Hey, listen, I just moved up here from the city and my kids ride the school bus and they come over this train tracks and there's no safety arms and I'm a little nervous about this and yada yada yada." And the cop was laughing at me hysterically. And I said, "What's so funny?" He says, "Dude, there hasn't been a train on that tracks in 40 years. So I was like, okay, now I know in the back of my head I can go down those tracks to investigate that location, never thinking that I would ever hear a ghost train.
That is
The ghost
creepy.
train comes by 3 times that night.
Wow.
It's insane. I mean, you can hear it clear as day, the whistle blowing. It sounded like an old fashioned, either diesel or steam engine. I'm not sure what it was, but you could hear that old fashioned train whistle clear as day. Not
Wow.
once, not twice, but 3 times it came by that night.
Do you think there was a history of some kind of accident with a train in that area? And
We were throwing out all kinds of stuff like I call it a ghost train because, I was thinking, well, maybe it wasn't actually a train. Maybe it was the Sasquatch that we heard on that side of the woods
huh.
mimicking a train, and he was still hanging around all night long. I don't know. I asked the psychic later, the following day, I asked the psychic, was that a Sasquatch mimicking a train or was that something else? And she said, absolutely not. That was a ghost train. She goes, that their ghost train runs through there all the time. Said, okay, I believe you because I know she's done enough. I've done enough stuff with her and I've tested her enough time to know that she's on point. If she says it's a ghost train, it's a ghost train. I don't argue with her. I think, okay. So we're sitting there and I notice that the pink glow stick to my left is moving. It's like moving up, it's moving down, it's moving. So I tapped my cousin
Oh,
Sean
wow.
on the shoulders and I said, look at that glow stick to the left. What do you see? And he says, it's moving. I said, what's it doing? He says, it's going up and down. I said, okay. So we turn our cameras on it. And when we looked at it through our cameras, no matter which camera we used, we couldn't see the glow stick. We couldn't even see the EMS meter.
Wow.
For some reason, our cameras could not film the glow stick or the EMF meters. All right. So now I tapped Sean. I said, come on, let's go over and look at it because I know how I placed it. And somebody's moving this thing. It's going to be hard to put it back exactly the way I put it down. And we went over there and we checked. We put our headlamps on and we walked over, and that glow stick was exactly at the same spot that I had put it down, which blew our minds because we both seen it moving. So now there's a glow stick way off to the northwest part, like a purple glow stick, and that thing is doing figure eights. But this glow stick is actually wedged between a tree break, one of the Sasquatch tree breaks. So we get up, we put our headlamps on, we go over, we look, and it's right where I left it. None of the EMF meters are going off, but the glow sticks are moving.
So wait, you said something about a tree break. What kind of tree break was it? Was it a good sized tree, or what would you say the length, or the width of it? Like, was it 6 or 8 inches wide, or how high?
It was a sapling. I would say it was maybe 4 inches in diameter.
Okay.
Yeah,
and it was pretty high up,
and it was twisted. I would say it was about the 6 foot level.
Wow. Okay.
Because I wanted to put it in a location that we would be able to see it from our base camp.
Yeah.
And so we went over and we looked, and it was right where I left it. So we come back now directly to Sean's right, maybe 20 feet away from him, pretty close. We have another orange glow stick sitting there with another EMF meter, and he taps me on the shoulder and he says, "Hey, cuz." I forgot what color was it. Was it? I think it was purple. The glow stick, and he says, "Hey, cuz, check this out." And so, "What's up?" He goes, "Check out this glow stick." And we look over, and this glow stick is doing all kinds of crazy maneuvers. When I tell you, it's moving all over the place, and I'm pissed because none of my high tech equipment is able to film this. I can't film it, and I don't know why I can't film it. Okay. And Sean breaks out his iPhone and he films it, and he gets it. He gets it on film.
No way.
And I was like, how is this possible that your iPhone is able to see it, but none of my high tech devices are not able to see it? I was at a loss.
That's not the first time I heard about an iPhone catching things that other electronics couldn't catch. So that's fascinating. It makes you wonder what's up with that,
Yeah, and when I tell you it was pitch black, Sean was filming in pitch black we didn't have our headlamps on or anything, you know what I mean? Because we're watching this purple glow stick do all kinds of maneuvers. And so we call Cindy up and we say, "Hey, listen, the glow sticks are moving all around us, but we can't get anything on video." Sean was able to capture it on his iPhone. And Cindy says, "Those are the tricksters. The tricksters are there, and they're messing with you." And she said, "One of you will be touched tonight." I said, "Okay, one of us will be touched." So again, we're sitting there. Glow stick. We go over, we look at the glow stick. By the time we get 20 feet over to where the tree is that we have it on, the down tree, the glow stick is right where we left it. I mean, it's like perfect with the EMF meter. You know what I mean? Like, it was never moved. I mean, I know I'm not hallucinating because he's seeing the same exact thing I'm seeing, And so we're bugging out, and so we sit back down and we're chilling out, and I'm sitting there, and I pull up the thermal imager, and when I pull up the thermal imager, maybe 50 feet away, there's a big maple tree, at the sacred site, and I see what looks like a hot image, like of a hand sticking out around the tree.
Wow.
And I'm like, what the hell? I put my headlamp on and I zoom in. I put the headlamp at zoom to get a good, and it's not there. I shut the headlamp off. I pull up the thermal imager, and the hand is there again. So now I'm looking, and I pull it down, I pull it up, I pull it down, And once I pull it up and I see this huge head peek out from behind the tree, and it's looking at us. And I'm like, what the hell is that? So I tap Sean and I say, listen, take the thermal imager. And I pointed the tree with the laser pointer and I said, just watch that tree. I said, tell me what you see. And then I'll tell you what I see. And he said, okay. He's watching the tree for a few minutes. And he says, okay, there's like a big hand that just came out on the right side. And now there's a big hand that came out on the left side. The one on the right side is higher than the one on the left. He goes, oh, crap. There's a big head sticking out from behind the tree now. So now he's seeing what I'm seeing. We turn on our headlamps. And we start to walk over to the tree to see what it is. By the time we get to the tree, there's nothing there. We never heard anything leave. We don't know what it was. It kind of looked like a Sasquatch to me, but we're also, remembering what Cindy said about that bear squatch. So we're discussing everything that's going on that night, everything we're experiencing. And I can't emphasize enough to him, being that it's his first investigation, that there's energy all around us all the time. And my instruments can pick up any kind of energy, and I'm not getting anything. And Cindy said the same thing. We talked to Cindy like the second or third time. She says, I feels like you guys are in some kind of dome, she said, looking out into a black abyss. And I was like, this is the same thing I said in my head. It's the same thing Sean said. She's seeing the same thing too, and she's feeling the same thing too. And she's saying the energy feels really weird. I'm not feeling anything inside the dome with you, but outside the dome, there's all this stuff, yada yada yada.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're like, okay. And at one point, we're sitting there. It's getting late. It's dark, and I'm looking around, and I'm just looking around, and I'm a little confused. Because looking back at me from the Western Ridge are 3 yellow glow sticks. Now, I'm confused why there's 3 yellow glow sticks in a row looking back at me. So I tap Sean and I say, dude, look, just take a look over here. What do you see? And he says, looks like you put 3 yellow glow sticks together in a row. And I put 3 yellow glow sticks together in a row because that's what it looks like. I go, dude, there's only 5 glow sticks in a pack and they're all different colors. How come there's 3 yellow ones looking at us? So he starts freaking out.
That's creepy.
Right? He's like, what the hell, right? So I said, okay, let's go see what's over there. Because I know I only put 1 yellow glow stick over there, So we get up, we put our headlamps, and now we got them on flood because I want to light up as much area as I can as I'm walking over there.
I would definitely do that. It's kind of creepy.
And as we're walking over, we get about maybe 20 feet from base camp, and 2 of the yellow glow sticks blink.
Oh, wow.
I stopped Sean. I said, okay, now all we have on us are 18-inch machetes, 10-inch survival knives, and then some couple of cans of pepper spray, right?
Wow.
I said, pull out your machete. We'll pull out my machete because I don't know what's over there. I said, he goes, well, let me go to the right and you go to the left and we'll see, I go, nope, let's stick together. There's strength in numbers. You stay with me and we'll flank it from the left. So as we came around this tree to our left, this thing stood up, okay? And it went up and up and up and up. And when I tell you it was 10 feet tall, 1,500 pounds, and there's this thing that Cindy called the bear squatch looking at us. And we're looking at it, And to me, it kind of reminded me of a Gugway. Okay.
Wow.
And it's looking at us, and I'm looking at it, and Sean's like, "What do we do?" And I said, "We back out slowly, we back out slowly." But we are at the sacred site, and the crazy thing is, the week before, I had a white Sasquatch whose name is Alarek come to me in a dream and told me to go to the sacred site and cleanse it and bind it. So I went to the sacred site. I don't usually go by myself in the woods, but I went to the sacred site the week before. And as I was there cleansing it, I was on the phone with another Bigfoot researcher from Connecticut, a friend of mine, Chris Reinhardt. He has a Discover Sasquatch channel. He researches the Berkshire Mountains in Connecticut.
Oh, really?
And I'm on the phone,
Okay.
and I'm on the phone with Chris, and I had brought Chris there that year as well, and Chris had a really bad experience. And I'm telling Chris, I'm at the sacred site, I'm cleansing it. Alarek came to me. Now, Alarek, not only did he come to me, but he came to my psychic Cindy, and he came to Chris. And Cindy's in Arkansas, I'm in New York, and Chris is in Connecticut. So anyway, I'm cleansing it when I start to get hit with infrasound. Now I know what infrasound is. I've been hit with it before, and I know what to do when I start to feel it. I said, Chris, stay on the phone. I went behind the big oak tree, and I sat behind the oak tree so that the infrasound couldn't hit me. And I stood there until I felt better, because you start to overheat, and you get the cold sweats and stuff like that. I poured some water over my head, but whatever was there was trying to stop me from saging and cleansing and binding. But once I got past that infrasound that hit it, once I got behind that tree, I was okay. And once I was okay, I went back to work because I said, Alarek told me to come here and do this. I'm going to do this. So I did it. I saged, and then I bound the site, the whole sacred site. It's like a circle, but it's like the size of a football field.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so Cindy said, long as we stayed inside the sacred site, because it was bound and cleansed, we would be safe. Nothing would harm us there,
So it's kind of like a shield, huh?
Yeah, and like I said, I've had a couple of interactions with the Sasquatches in my dreams. One was a girl Sasquatch, one was Alarek, who told me he was a king shaman and all this other stuff.
Oh, really?
And and he told me to go there and cleanse and bind. So that's what I did. So once this thing, as we started to back away, we were backpedaling away from this 10-foot creature. And, I'm trying to explain to my cousin on the way in, when you see these things, your brain can't comprehend what your eyes are seeing, because your brain wants to shut down, because these things are not supposed to exist. Now, I was talking about the 7-8 foot Sasquatches, not a 10-foot bear squatch kind of creature,
Mm-hmm.
And this thing turned and ran north up the woods. All right. It ran away from us. Again, Cindy said it had never seen people. It doesn't know what we were. So I guess we freaked it out because we came towards it, and it ran. And at the northern end of the sacred site is a stone wall that runs through the woods. We have stone walls all over the East Coast in the woods. They say they're property markers, but I'm not buying it, because sometimes you'll find two running parallel together for miles.
Really?
With a little 5 feet of space in between them. Why would two different farmers make two different walls? It makes no sense.
That's what really gets me going wild, because I hear a lot of people talk about some kind of stones on the East Coast. It seems like a lot of stuff like that is seen over in the East Coast area, not so much in the West Coast.
We have ancient stone chambers here on the East Coast that are just mind-boggling.
Wow.
So,
I'd love to come see that.
I just recently did a I just recently did an experiment in one of them that I had never done before. We had opened up a portal in one of them one time.
Oh, whoa. See,
and
now you got my interest right there about the portal.
And yeah, and something came out of the portal to look at us, you know.
Oh,
But the radiation level got so high it was getting dangerous. We had to get out of there. But
wow. You're not the first person I heard say that on a show about the portal or there's some kind of radiation reaction.
Well, I was at a symposium one time, and I was sitting next to what was the dude's name? He's an electrical engineer, but he's a paranormal guy. Man, I can't think of his name.
There's so many of them out there.
No, this guy was like one of the first guys out there.
Oh, really?
Doing portals with electricity. He was an electrical engineer, yeah. That's what I'm saying. He was one of the first guys out there. And
right on.
He told me, he said, you know how you know portal opens up? I said, how? He goes, the radiation level goes through the roof. Wow. So I said, okay. So we had our Geiger counters, of course, and we did the first thing. It was nothing, and then we did some rituals, and we opened it up. But anyway, look, recently I was just out there. Quick story off bases here.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Let's hear it. I was doing experiments with a quartz crystal pendulum, and we went to 3 different chambers during the day and 3 different chambers at night. And I was doing a quartz crystal experiment with the pendulum, and I was saying, you know, do this, move this way, move that way, and the pendulum. I got it all, so it was all moving. During the day, I was asking questions and it was moving. Well, we went back at night. We went back to the same 3 chambers, right? And I took out the quartz crystal pendulum, but this time I asked the questions in my head, like telepathically, and the pendulum still moved.
Wow.
So whatever was in that chamber, whatever energy was, it could hear my thoughts because it did exactly what I told it to do through telepathic communication, like it did when I was talking to it during the day.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was crazy. So anyway, we getting back to the Bear Squatch.
Yeah.
The Bear Squatch is running north up the woods, and like I said, there's a stone wall at the end of, and I guess it goes to jump. At least I thought it jumped over the stone wall because it sounded like a bulldozer taking down trees. But when we went back last weekend, we looked, and it had run through the wall. It ran right through this stone wall.
Really?
And it took this wall down. And I got a video of how the wall is like 4 feet high. And then there's the wall. It's debris. And then it's 4 feet high again on the other side. And there's no large trees down next to it, anywhere near it, that had come down and take that wall down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the only thing I could think of that did that was that creature. I thought it had run and jumped over the wall, but maybe it didn't even see the wall and it just ran through it, you know, because the wall was just like debris everywhere. There was giant stones everywhere, you know. It was crazy.
I believe it. I've heard stories of these things crashing through trees that are like the size of 12 to 35 inches wide and just crushing them. It's just massive power from these beasts.
Oh yeah, they can run through trees and they take trees down like it's like nothing. It's just like they're going out of style and stuff.
That's why that's why I tell people don't go in there with a little BB gun, man, because not even a 9mm is going to take these things down, you know?
No. And when we go out, I don't let anybody take any firearms.
No,
I don't trust anybody with a firearm but myself, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I hear you there.
And I'm licensed. I'm armed guard. You know what I mean? I'm licensed. I mean, I have a carrier's license. Plus, I got an armed guard's license, so I have to go through all kinds of training and everything. So, and I don't take one.
There's people that get careless and stupid with guns and end up shooting something that they shouldn't have shot.
People don't know how they're going to react in a situation like that. And even though you may think you're going to be all cool, calm, and collective, when your brain can't comprehend what your eyes are seeing, you may just pull that gun out and start shooting in every different direction and shoot one of your friends or a relative.
Yeah, you don't want that. You don't want that at all.
That's why I only allow machetes, survival knives, and pepper spray or bear spray. You know, no firearms of any kind. No, I never do.
I totally respect that. That's awesome.
Yeah. So then We go back to base camp
Mm-hmm.
and we call Cindy and we say, okay, your bear squatch just showed up. We walked over to it and we approach it and she's like, why? I told you to stay away from that thing. It was dangerous. And because we didn't know what it was because it was squatting down behind a down tree right where I put the yellow glow stick, and it had yellow eyes, and we seen three yellow things glowing, looking at us. So we wanted to see what the hell was there. We didn't know that it was actually the creature until it stood up, you know. And she's like, "Well, I think it's time for you guys to go. You should pack up and go, you know." And I was like, "Okay, you know what? If she tells me it's time to go, then it's time to go."
Hey, Al,
So,
the quick
yeah.
question for you.
Yeah,
Did you say her name is Cindy? Did you catch that?
Cindy, yeah.
Okay, Cindy. She sounds familiar. Does she happen to be on the West Coast side or no?
No, I think she just did a podcast out of the West Coast recently.
Okay.
I
Because I
think she
know
did two podcasts. So I know I have a friend of mine who's a psychic,
okay.
and she has a podcast out of Oregon as well.
She sounds
And
familiar, so that's why I was
and
like,
Cindy was on her podcast like twice in the last month or something like that.
That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah,
I had to ask because
and
you said she's Indian, right? And I know a Cindy that's Nate.
her grandmother is Cherokee. Yeah,
Okay, cool. Yeah, the Cindy I know and see on the social media, she lives over in Idaho during the summertime, and then she heads down to Texas during winter. So it's probably a different Cindy.
no, my Cindy lives in Arkansas all year
Okay.
round.
Okay.
That's where she lives.
Oh, I
Yeah.
heard stories about Arkansas, so that's
Yeah,
interesting.
there's a
Yeah.
lot of stories about Arkansas.
Yeah.
And so we decide it's time. She decides it's time for us to pack up. Now,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you got to understand. My cousin's trying to take. At one point we were sitting there, okay,
Yeah.
and I'm looking at my cousin, and I don't claim to be psychic by any stretch of imagination, but all the psychics I know say I am, and I do have certain abilities, but they come and go. I just can't do it at will. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I'll hear a voice, or I'll smell something, or I'll taste something, or I'll touch something. I'll hear a voice that touch this and touch that, and I'll get a vision in my mind's eye, stuff like that. But it's not like things I can just do automatically. It's got to be given to me at that moment in time, you know? And I'm sitting there next to my cousin, and I'm feeling all of a sudden from him, I'm feeling like he's got this fear coming over him, and it's coming up from his feet, and it's at his knees, and it's starting to rise. And I'm thinking, no, I can't let this kid have any fear, because that's like a beacon for ending dark that's in these woods, you know. And I tell people all the time, when you go into the woods squatching, protect yourself physically and spiritually, because there's a lot of shit in the woods that other than Bigfoots and Dogman and stuff, you know. And I'm looking at my cousin and I'm feeling this energy rise through his legs, when all of a sudden I see this look come over his face, and he does this thing with his arms, and he pushes it back down, and he pushes it out of his legs. Right. I swear to God, I felt it come out the bottom of his feet and into the ground, and he grounded himself. And I just looked at him, and I was like, he's like, what's going on? And I started laughing. I was like, you had fear come over you? He goes, well, it was coming over me, but I pushed it. I said, you don't know how impressive that is for a 20-year-old kid to do that his first time out, and dealing with all the crap that we've dealt with tonight. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's definitely a brave kid to be out there, you know.
Yeah. And I've taken him to all kinds of locations now, but we were just out. Like I said, we were out there last week until we had more crazy stuff happen. But so Cindy says it's time to pack up. And I was like, okay. So it's a 4-mile hike. It's like a half a mile from the high plateau down to the Appalachian Trail. And then, 2 miles from the Appalachian Trail to the mining road, and then another 2.5 miles from the mining road to the parking area where you can park your car at the trail's head, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And we're hiking along the Appalachian Trail, and this trail, the ground is wet, the rocks are wet, it's sketchy. I mean, if you go down and you hit yourself, you're gonna break your head open, you're gonna bust the knee. I mean, it's really, really dangerous. And we're walking past a part of the woods that had been burnt out a couple of years ago. So we've got a lot of new young growth coming up, you know, but
Yeah.
it's basically almost like a clear cut. You can see up into the mountain, you know. And as we're walking, we got our headlamps on. As we're walking, all of a sudden we hear bada boom. Something hits the lake, maybe 5 feet from the shore where we are. We're walking along the lake shore, the edge of the lake. And we both turn around and we see this water, this wake of water go up about 20 feet. And I'm thinking, oh my God, something just threw a giant stone at us, you know? And I'm looking up the mountain for any eye shine or anything standing on like a rock or something, you know, thinking something's going to scream at us. And Sean turns to me and he's white as a ghost because it hit right next to him, you know? I mean, if this stone would have hit any of us, it would have killed us, okay? And I'm sure it wasn't meant to hit us because it landed in the lake, you know,
It's not the first time I heard something like that. That's interesting.
Yeah. And we had rocks thrown at us the night we were there. Whenever I'm there, the Sasquatches do come in and they throw like pebbles at you,
Mm-hmm.
but they never hit us. Like I have the glow sticks around us, but they always land in front of the glow sticks. They never land inside the circle. So this thing hits the water, bada boom, the water goes up about 20 feet.
Mm-hmm.
And I turn around to look. We're both looking at this giant wake of water coming back down at us. And I look at Sean, he's white as a ghost, and he goes, "What the hell was that?" And I go, "It was a beaver." He goes, "What do you mean?" I go, "It was." I said, "The beavers here are huge." Because he's from the city, he just moved up to the country. I said, "The beavers here are huge." I said, "He must have splashed his tail when he jumped in the water, you know." And Sean goes, "Are you sure that's a beaver?" And they go, "Absolutely, that's a beaver." Okay. Because I don't want to scare the kid. You know, I don't want the kid freaking out thinking something's trying to throw. But I think it was that bear squatch. I think he was following us up on top of the mountain. And he just felt like letting us know he was there, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And so we finally make it to the mining road and we hike down the mining road. Now, at the end of the mining road or at the beginning of the mining road, depends on which way you're coming, there's a ranger station. You can't be in the park after dark. And the ranger does a patrol at 11 o'clock. And you can't get past this ranger station because not only does it have sensor lights, it has an invisible bell, you know, an IR light that when you walk through, a bell rings in the station and the dogs go off and the ranger comes out. I've dealt with the ranger a million times, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm telling Sean, this is what's going to happen when we get to the end of the mining road. We're going to go by I showed him with a little spray can of hairspray. I sprayed it. I said, this is the invisible light. When we walk through this invisible light, the bell's going to ring. The dogs are going to bark. I said, we're going to get 10 feet further down the road when the sensor light is going to go off, or we're going to be underneath the sensor light. And then the ranger is going to come out and question us. So let me do all the talking. It's absolutely. So we get to where we're, you know, the end of the, I'm showing them everything. And we walk through the invisible eye, and the dogs never stop barking. And we look at each other like, interesting. We can see the ranger car in front of the ranger station and the lights are on, but the dogs aren't barking. So we walk another 10 feet. Now we walk underneath the sensor light, and the sensor light is set to like the 5 foot level. So like the deer or the other animals don't set it off, you know? And we walk through the sensor light, and the sensor light never goes on. And Sean looks at me and goes, "Are you sure this is the way it works?" I go, "Dude, I've been coming to this place for 10 years. I've never had this experience where the bell didn't ring, the dogs didn't bark, the light didn't go on, the ranger didn't come out. I'm telling you, this has always happened." We get out to the main highway and we're walking up the highway to the trailhead and we see the Central light come on like 10 minutes later. And we just start laughing hysterical. Like, this is insane. It's because I'm telling you, you can't get past this ranger station because they don't want anybody at that park after dark, you know? But you could be on the Appalachian Trail 24/7, 365 days a year, you know?
Yeah.
So, and I always give them the same. I tell the ranger, I give the ranger the same excuse every single time. We're on the Appalachian Trail, hiking to the trailhead where our car was at, when we came across a large pack of coyotes that ran us off the trail. We ended up on the mining road, and we're just taking the mining road to the main road to get to our car. And we didn't see anybody at the lake. We weren't hanging out on the lake. We were on the Appalachian Trail, and they never give me any hassle because I'm an old dude, and you know what I mean. And we're not young kids with a keg party sitting at the lake. You know what I mean, with tents and stuff. So
it's like, no, we're just out researching.
I know he's done that. I know at 11 o'clock he's come up and he's driven up to the end of the mining road, and he didn't see anybody at the lake. And if we were there, he would have seen us, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I know he's already done that patrol, and we're usually coming out, you know, anywhere between 12 and 2 o'clock in the morning. You know what I mean? So, but it was just so funny. Then we got to the car, and we get we go right through. First thing we do is go right to the digital voice recorders. And I'm saying, okay, let's start with the voice activated one. It should have us walking away from it because you can hear all the leaf litter, and I'm sure it's going to pick that up, you know. And then it should have us coming back to it because of the leaf litter. And if it's captured anything in between, it's something that we didn't hear because we were on the other side of the sacred site. But we turn it on, and it's got nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It's got nothing. It doesn't even got us walking over to it. It doesn't have us walking away from it. It's captured nothing. As a matter of fact, I think after we walked away from it, something shut it off because it's got nothing. I swear to God, I believe it was shut off.
Wow.
So then we go to the other one that runs 72 hours consistently. And we were there for like 10 hours. You know what I mean? I like to do day and night because I like to see how the energy changes from day to night, you know?
Yeah, that makes sense because the energy level's different during the day and energy level's different during the night. Yeah, because,
you know, you got to remember, there was a solar eclipse during the day.
Mm-hmm.
There was 1% of the moon at night. So there's not a lot of moon energy, you know, and it is Friday the 13th, you know?
Yeah. So, something about Friday the 13th, isn't there?
Yeah. And we go to the other digital voice recorder that's been running continuously the whole time we were there. We go to play the file, and it says error, file corrupted. I don't know if that helicopter that came by
disrupted or something,
zapped it or something. I honestly don't know. I don't know.
You know,
if we were in some kind of dome, and the energy of the dome wouldn't let it record. I don't know, but I've heard nothing on two different voice recorders.
Well, Al, I heard some people talk about when they deal with these things, you know, Sasquatch, they feel like they do something to their electronics, like they'll disrupt it and it causes to shut down, and then they lose any evidence of showing what they experienced at that time. I've heard a lot of people talk about that, going out there and trying to, you know, record and do all their things. Some people get lucky and get something, but then some people say their electronics just get zapped and destroyed or drain on the battery or something.
Yeah, you know what? I've never had any, thank God, knock on wood, I've never had any of my equipment destroyed, but I do go out with two solar battery packs that I can plug into anything I need because the batteries do get drained quickly.
That's smart.
You know? So, I mean, those are my backups, those solar battery packs. They've saved my life more than once for sure. You know what I mean? And they saved my life out there. The second time we went out, it was let me go get my paperwork here.
Yeah, no problem.
It was It was on. I mean, I'm not going to discuss it now because it's like another hour show. But the second time we went out, it was October 28th. It was a lunar eclipse, not a solar eclipse, and it was a full moon. And that only happens like every 14 years or something like that, where you get a solar and a lunar eclipse in the same month.
Oh yeah.
And in 14 years, I'll be way too old to try to hike 4 miles in the woods. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I was making a point to getting out there last year for those two dates because those were the two dates. Like I said, I never go out alone, but those two particular dates, I was going out there that night, come hell or high water, with my cousin or without. You know what I mean? Because I was hell bent on trying to get the readings and the energy of the location on those two different kind of events. So
Oh yeah.
so that was the Friday 13th experience, and then like I said, we went back out on the 28th, and as a matter of fact, we just went back out last Saturday night as well. So
Oh
you
really?
know, yeah, and we had a pretty wild experience that night too. Not as wild as the second time we went out. The second time we went out, all bets were off. It was like a totally insane kind of night. It was just like, man, it was crazy. It made the first night look like nothing happened. You know what I mean? And no, it really did. I mean, it was just like, and my cousins, he really surprises me sometimes. Like, I'll have a thought come to my head, and he'll like 2 seconds later he'll say it. Like, I don't know if he's hearing my thoughts or if we're just on the same wavelength. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
But he'll say shit all every now and then, and I'll say, "What made you say that?" You know what I mean? Because I didn't tell him about it. I wasn't, or what I was thinking, but he would just come out and say stuff, and it blows my mind. It really, really does. And yeah, so I mean, well, that was the first experience on Friday the 13th at the sacred site. So if you ever want to have me back again and talk about the other nights we went back out there, I'll be more than happy to come
Well,
back
it
and
definitely
discuss it.
sounds like we're going to be having to do a part 2 and a part 3 and maybe so on. So you definitely have a lot of interesting things going on. But let me ask you a question, Noah.
I ask me as many questions as you want, please.
Yeah, have you had a good look at any of these creatures or no?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Close up, and
Yeah, I've had it. I didn't tell you about my experience when I was 12 years old down in Florida, where I seen the thing up close and personal. But that one was like I was looking at something that looked like King Kong to me,
mm-hmm.
standing maybe 15 feet away in the floodlights at my sister's house. I was standing behind a thin pane of glass when I seen it. So, but even I've seen them on the parkway sunning themselves on big rocks after a rain. I think it was part sunning itself, to be honest with you, because it had rained earlier in the day.
Yeah.
And I think it had slept partially underneath the rock that it was sunning itself on, because the rock kind of had an overhang to it and a lot of high grass underneath it. And you could like wedge in there and kind of stay dry. But I also think at the same time, when it was sitting on the rock looking down at the parkway, there was construction going on the parkway, and I think he was curious about the workers,
Mm-hmm.
because when I seen it, I went back to investigate that. Not that particular day, but like 2 days later, when I had a day off, I went back, and that rock that didn't look that big because the Sasquatch was the size of the rock was humongous when I got up to it. You know what I mean? It was the size of a minivan, and you could see how the high grass was pushed down, and you
Yeah.
could see how if you wedged yourself underneath that little bit of overhang, if it was a light drizzle, you could stay dry,
Mm-hmm.
or get out of the wind. But I really do. I really think it was sunning itself on the rock, and I really think at the same time it was just curious about the construction on the parkway that was going on.
Well, did you get a good look at the hair and the face of it at all? Did it kind of look more human
That
or?
one was like an auburn color.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a little too far away for me to get details of the face.
Okay. Yeah.
But the one down in Florida was again the one in Florida. It looked like it was jet black, but when the floodlights of the house hit it, it had like red highlights or tint, a red tint to it. You know what I
Okay.
mean?
Okay.
And it had it had canines because it was screaming.
Wow. Okay.
Um, and it had like a leather face. It looked like black leather face.
Yeah, I
You
hear that a
know?
lot. I hear, this is what interesting about Bigfoot. I definitely think there's more than one type, kind of like
Oh,
humans. You know what I
absolutely.
mean? Like humans, we all look different. I mean, there's the white,
Mhm.
black, reds, and you know what I mean. And we all shape and differently, different hair color. So I definitely think there's several different types. Maybe one type that has different looks to them, but the second type, let's say the red haired looking ones. I say that's a one separate type Sasquatch right there, and it sounds like a more dangerous one. And then the dark brown ones, like Patty, um, I think that's another type that looks more like an ape style. And the red hair
Right.
one, I think looks more like a human like in the face, is what I hear from encounter stories.
Right.
And then the third type, they talk about having a long snout, which I think is the one that people are claiming it's the dog man. And I think that's the dog man that people are seeing that's connected to Bigfoot some way.
And there's one that has like a baboon kind of face
Yeah.
to it. It's
Yeah.
got a longer snout and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily think I I don't know, to be brutally honest. I don't know if it's in the dog man family or the Sasquatch family.
Yeah. That one I
Um,
found kind of interesting
I
because I'm trying to figure out what that one is because that
I'm
might be
leaning,
something of its own, you know?
yeah, I'm kind of leaning towards the Sasquatch family only because that one, the legs are usually like human legs, straight. They don't have the haunches like the dog man legs. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I mean? But
Yeah,
then
I hear about
they're
the bamboo looking one in the in the face there that they are a little bit smaller, more like man sized or something like that. Maybe slightly
yeah.
bigger than this, but I don't know. I could be wrong. I think that's what I heard.
I think they come in all shapes and sizes.
Yeah,
I always refer them to as like dogs. There's
yeah.
so many different breeds of dogs, but they're all dogs. You know what I mean?
I
And I
definitely
say
want
the
to hear
same.
about your dog man encounter. So if that's
The
gonna
dog
be,
man stuff is crazy.
yeah,
Yeah,
that one I'll have to bring you back on. I'm pretty sure it's you got more to it, don't you?
it's a lot. I mean, there's like 3 or 4 different. Well, I have like 3 or 4 or 5. I don't even remember.
Well,
Four or five
give us
different
a little
experiences.
detail on it. Like what did you see? What'd you see?
Um,
And where at? I mean, you don't have to tell us the location, but send it's
um,
area.
we were doing an investigation on Hallows Eve one night, and we were at a location that was high strangeness location. It was a meteor shower. It was Hallows Eve, and I had scouted the location. I found 3 quartz crystal stones set up in a triangle shape on top of a ridge. And I was there with my cameraman. And I said, okay, we'll start here and then we'll work our way back towards the car because it was at the furthest point of the investigation. And then it was like a meadow. We were going to sit at the meadow and do investigation at the meadow. Then we were going to stop on the way out at a campsite where the Sasquatches are known to come in. And that was going to be our last location before we head out to the cars. Long story short, we got bluff charged by what we thought was a Bigfoot, because a Bigfoot, we heard it walk over to us, heard it with the parabolic mic walk over to us, sound like a monster when it walked over to us. And the guys with me heard it without the parabolic mic. It whooped at us 3 times, and we were about 50 feet up on the ridge, and it was about 300 feet away from us in the woods, and it went right up the ridge and through our bodies and made everything vibrate. And then it threw a rock at us, like the size of a bowling ball, and it hit my partner, one of my tech guy's chair. And through the night, my tech guy and my camera guy kept saying, "Let's go, let's go, let's go," and I kept saying, "No, no, I feel like there's more to come." I didn't want to leave too soon, and at one point we heard something charging up the ridge at us, and it was on quadruped, it was on all fours, and it was charging up the ridge, and it was coming. You could hear the leaves breaking and the twigs snapping, and it was coming, and my cameraman was sitting up against another one of those stone walls, okay, that ran across the top of the ridge. He had his back to it, and this thing was running up the stone wall on the other side. So he got up to run. And as he ran, I stopped him. I reached out. I don't know how I did it because I never took my eyes off of where the sound was coming from. I stopped him and I spun him around. I told him, stand your ground. And we ended up in a triangle formation. We all pulled out our machetes, thinking that it was a Sasquatch coming over. They thought it was a Sasquatch coming over the ridge. Me personally, I thought it was either a black bear or a mountain lion. And actually, I was in between trees. So I pulled out my survival knife because my machete was too big to maneuver around the trees. And I'm thinking, I'm going to have to sacrifice my left arm and kill this thing with my survival knife, on my right hand. And the sound comes right up to where we are and it stops and nothing comes over the wall. And we're all standing there dumbfounded. And I got a little tiny Sony digital camera hanging around my neck. And I take one photograph of where I think this thing is. And I didn't know at the time, but in that photograph, I had caught a dog man sticking its head over the wall. And it was one of those, I call it looked like a pit bull. It had that block head with the short snout. And I think but people kind of refer to it more like a hyena kind. And you can see its nose, two eyes shining over its nose is two eyes. And you can see it's got like a blocked jaw. And you can see its ears are cropped like a Doberman.
Wow.
And it's just sniffing at us. Now, I didn't see it in the photograph. Someone from California seen it and told me I got it. And I thought he sent it to me and I thought it was photoshopped. And I had to go back to my SD card to find it. And sure as shit, it was there. So then I was being drawn back to that location, didn't know why. And we were there for like, I got hit with infrasound going to that location that day. I was maybe 100 yards away when I got hit with infrasound that just knocked me to my ass. And again, my cameraman wanted to head back, and I was like, there's no way I'm leaving now. I can see where I want to be, And we went there, and we go for like the first hour walking around. We didn't see anything. It was like we had blinders on. We couldn't see. And eventually I heard a little voice in my head said, jump on this giant rock. I jump on the rock. And then the voice says, with your walking sticks, move the cattails. I move the cattails, and there's a trackway going right down the middle of the swamp. So now my cameraman jumps on a rock. My partner, my tech guy, jumps on a rock. And we zoom into the swamp. And in the middle of the swamp, there's a den. And inside the den is a giant Van Helsing looking dog man, but he's looking to his south. And then there's right next to him is the one I believe Bluff charged us, which was the one that looked like the hyena. And it's looking at us and it's snarling at us. Like it wants to come out there and kill us.
I don't know. The dog man creeps me the hell out, man.
And dog man is no joke. I tell people don't go looking for it. Don't save yourself the trouble. Don't go out looking for that thing.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's out there, it'll find you. You want to go squatching, that's fine, but don't go looking for that thing. And then next to those two things was something that looked like a reptilian.
Reptilian.
And the reptilian.
You got me on the edge right now. I'm like, reptilian. I've heard stories about that. That's interesting.
The reptilian is holding what looks like my cameraman Bill. We were at his house going over the evidence on a 60-inch screen TV. And we're looking at this and we're like, what the hell is that? It looks like the creature from the Black Lagoon. That was a reptilian.
That's crazy.
And we're looking at the two dogmen. And Cameron and Bill's mom comes in the room with coffee and cake, and she looks at the TV and she says, "What are those two little monkeys doing in there?" And the reptilian has got like two little Sasquatches by the hand.
What the? Wow.
Oh, we found its den. I was being drawn to its den all winter long. So the following spring, I had to get out there. I don't know why I had to get out there, but I had to get out there. And for the first hour of us walking around, we didn't see anything. After we found the trackway, we found arches, X's, breaks, bends, twists. We found scat. We found a trackway out of the back of the den going down the middle of the swamp. And we found what looked like a homemade corral with down trees.
Really?
But these trees were 60, 70 feet long.
Wow.
It looked like either something was corralling deer in there, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or they were using those trees as a choke point or something.
It's almost like a teamwork trying to track them into a point so they can take it out.
Like they were herding them in there, yeah. And
that's crazy.
So we found its den, and then it came to my house twice.
Wow.
To let me know it knew where I lived.
That's what I hear. Once you get connected with these things, they come visit you. That's what I hear. I hear stories of them coming to visit you.
It came. So not once but twice. And first time it came, it left the claw marks in my backyard underneath my window.
Wow.
We had just run new lines to the well, and there was no grass on that dirt. And it happened to run right underneath my bedroom window. And then when I got home the following day, there was claw marks on the window, which I took pictures of. And then the second time it came back, it was actually waiting for me outside underneath my front deck.
Really? Wow.
And that's another long story. But I mean,
like I said, I'm going to have to bring you back on like several, if you're down. Definitely some more episodes.
Absolutely. Yeah, look, I'm easy. Whenever you want me, let me know. Just check the calendar to make sure the schedule is, the time is available. Yeah. I have no problem coming back.
I'll check in with you and
if you want, you know what I mean?
You got a lot going on, Al, and hearing about the little bio you told me about the psychic ability and supposedly you have.
I didn't even tell you about the time we heard the monkey barking in the woods.
Monkey barking in the woods.
Oh my!
Really?
God. That was insane, dude.
In the United States, you heard some monkey barking in the woods.
Dude, just a synopsis of the story. At the sacred site with two paranormal women, and the Bigfoots come down off the ridge and they surround us and they let us know they're coming because they're walking like elephants.
Oh, wow.
And we get surrounded and the women are freaking out because it's dark 4 miles in the woods underneath the tree canopy. And they're throwing rocks at us and all kinds of stuff is going on. And they're whooping and they're whistling and they're doing all kinds of things. And then at one point they wanted us to leave and they broke a branch. It was like a French branch. It sounded like a 30-06 going off by your ear. Okay?
Wow.
And when they did that, I said, okay, now it's time for us to leave. And they were like, how are we going to get out? They got us surrounded. I said, don't worry, they'll let us out. And they did. They let us out and they herded us. And they usually herd you to a certain point, and then they turn around and they go back and you go out, Well, we must have been being herded by 3 young males. It was either 3 young males or 3 young females. But at one point, one on each side of us whistling and one way in the back that was doing like an owl call. The one in the back come racing up 100 miles an hour. And when he got to a certain point, the other 2 jumped on the mining road. Now, the mining road is concrete because they used to mine uranium in this location, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Weapons grade uranium. So the place is a place of high strangeness. And, and I tell the girls don't run because you can't outrun these things. But, of course, when they hear these things running up on them and they jumping out and they start going, ooh, 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 ooh. And the woods are echoing and it's getting louder and louder and louder. And the girls take off running and I'm screaming, don't run, don't run, don't run. And they take off like a bat out of hell. And I'm trying to tell them to stop because you can't outrun these things and you don't want to trigger their prey drive. You know what I
No,
mean?
no. Stay still.
And yes, and eventually the vibe I got initially when they first started doing them, because then they started jumping up and down and slapping the mining road, and you can hear 3 different feet hit the ground, like three sets of feet hit the ground, then 3 sets of hands slap the ground, and this vibration is coming down the road, and they're barking, ooh, 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 like would sound like Planet of the Apes. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It
that's
was
crazy.
insane, and I'm thinking, what do I do? My mind is going like a zillion miles an hour because I've never experienced this before. But I've never been in the woods with women before. It's always been guys. And so I have a flare gun. I said, if I shoot the flare gun, I'll burn the woods down because it's October. And God forbid I set one of them on fire. The other two will kill me. So I'm trying to think of what to do. When I put my headlamp on and I pull my machete, I put my machete in the light so they could see the blade shimmering in the light. And I just started walking towards them, cursing and yelling at them, saying, "You're not supposed to do this. You're only supposed to hurt us out to this point. Why are you doing this?" Because it felt like in the beginning when they did it, they were doing it to scare the girls. But I felt like there was a point where it was almost at the point of no return. And if I didn't do something, because I was the alpha, if I didn't do something right then and there, I felt like they were going to come charging down at us, you know? And then what am I going to do? Even if they're 6 feet tall, they're probably 600 pounds, you know, young juveniles, you know? And
I've
so
heard that. I hear juveniles are the ones that make a lot of sounds, like sound like a bunch of monkeys going off and playing around and acting crazy. So it's that's a good point right there. Juveniles right there.
so I was walking towards them, trying to get them in my headlamp because I wanted to see what I was dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
But for every step I took forward, they backed up. And then the girls started freaking out because I was getting too far away from them, you know?
Yeah.
They were like, "Al, come back, come back, come back," you know? And I was like, "No, I want to see them." But they must have turned and ran and went back to the main family unit. But I was screaming and cursing at them like you were screaming and cursing at people. You know what I mean? You're
Oh
not
yeah.
supposed to do this. The alpha is going to hear you in the woods when you guys get back there. You're going to get your ass kicked. And I was just like a lunatic because I had never experienced anything like that. When we finally got to the truck, we put all our equipment in the truck. The girls are like, I said, never going in the woods again, not even for a hike. You can keep your goddamn woods.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stick to ghost hunting and yada yada yada. And I'm laughing hysterical because it was on their bucket list. That's why I took them. They said, "Could you take us squatching?" It's on our bucket list. Never expecting to really have any kind of experience. But you know, they experienced so much stuff that night they never went back in the woods ever again.
Yeah, it sounds like
I got home.
you got a
I
lot
got
going
home.
on, Al, and
Dude, I was so excited when I got home. I woke my wife up out of a dead sleep at 2 o'clock in the morning to tell her what happened. And then I went on YouTube listening to like a million videos of monkey barking, you know?
trying to
It
compare it,
was,
huh?
yeah, trying to compare it. Yeah, it was crazy.
So that's awesome, Al. You know, I'm definitely gonna have to have you come back on a few shows because you sound like you got nothing but the crazy stuff going on. You know, you got a lot of cryptid and and obviously some psychic stuff going on. And I'm
Yeah, I've done. Like I said, I've done this, done ancient stone chambers. I've done a lot of ghost hunting stuff with a lot of different people,
see, I
you
definitely
know,
want to
and
hear some paranormal stuff. So I'm
yeah,
pretty
I've
sure
done
you
a
got
lot of
some of that.
paranormal stuff.
So,
I've had some alien experience. Like I said,
ooh,
last Friday night, I got the video of that UFO over the house, you know, and it was just wild, just
right on.
crazy. Yeah, I mean, I got a ton of shit, and that's why I like to talk about my personal experiences
Oh, I love hearing
because
it, and I'm sure
it's it's all
people like to
true.
compare their experience with that too, and they're like, "Wow, that guy experienced what I
It's
did."
all true. I have people who
So,
can validate it that were there with me. You know, 99% of the times somebody is with me that can validate it, and
oh yeah,
you know,
well, I believe you. I believe what
and
I
I tell
heard is
people,
sounds
you know,
pretty damn legit because I've heard a lot of stories, and I heard some people on my show talk about a similar thing that you dealt with. especially with the dog, man, and
Oh yeah, the
and
dog.
these Sasquatch
I
encounters and
get the
stuff. So,
Sasquatches too. They come by all the time in my back of my yard,
oh
and
yeah,
they leave quartz crystal stones in my fire pit for me.
wow. See, I heard about
Yeah,
that gifting and all that stuff too, and
I got 100 acres of apple orchards behind my house, and
wow,
across the street I have another 100 acres of wetland. And they come out of the wetland, and
wow,
then they come through the apple orchard because they're following the deer. The deer do the same thing,
oh
and
yeah,
they're following the deer. And I'm sitting out in the fire pit having a cold beer, listening to a Yankee game on the radio, and I can hear them walking by, because sometimes they're quiet as a mouse and you can't hear them, and sometimes they want you to know that they're coming by. I guess it's their way of saying hi.
mm-hmm.
Um, so they'll let you know they're there. But
So what do you
yeah,
think
no,
what do you think these squatches are? Do you think there's something natural or coming in through portals, or do you think they're something else out of this world? What do you think they are?
I think they're interdimensional beings.
Mm-hmm.
The Native Americans call them people. I believe they are a people, just not from our realm. And I think they just know how to use energy to come in and out. I think they like our environment. It's conducive to the way they live. There's a lot of food here. Long as they stay away from people, they don't have
Yeah.
to worry about getting killed.
Yeah, I don't know if they I mean maybe they have. I don't know, some maybe go rogue and kill people, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm sure you'll get like one or two that are maybe in the going through their awkward stage and
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and just out of control, tearing stuff up, and you know, you may have a bad day. You may come upon it. It may not end well for you.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they've never killed anybody. Absolutely, I believe they have
Yeah, it kind of
more than one time.
explains some things that happen in the woods where people disappear and never seen again. Or I can't say Bigfoot's connect to it. It could be UFOs abducting people, or it could
I
be
think it's all
people.
of the above.
Yeah.
I think people are walking into portals and disappearing. I
Mm-hmm.
think the dog man are grabbing people. I think the Bigfoots are grabbing people. I think the aliens are grabbing people.
Yeah, I
I
agree.
think it's all of the above.
I
Yeah, I
agree with
really
you
do.
100%, man. I think it's all above, and there's a lot more to this world that people do not know because they're all concrete people. They don't go out in the woods a lot, and they're not exploring, unknown areas, and they don't have no clue because I call those concrete people for a reason because
Concrete people. Yeah, no, I
yeah,
mean, like I said, I have a rapport with this. I have like 5 or 6 different locations, and depending what time of year it is, different clans are at different locations at different years, different time of the year. But I know October and November, they're usually at the sacred site. You know what I mean?
mm-hmm.
So I usually go to the sacred site that time of year. During the summer, I may go to different other locations, but the fall, definitely the sacred site.
Yeah,
And they know me. They know my scent. They know, according to my psychic, they know before I even get there that I'm coming. Like
that's
I
awesome.
seen I seen the white one time on the way to work. It was like 4 o'clock in the morning. It was a foggy day. I'm going through these mountain roads, and I'm the only guy on the parkway. It's a Saturday. I'm the only guy on the way to work, and I see these two red balls like 100 yards away in the fog, and I'm like, "What the hell is that?" So I'm slowing down because there's no one on the road but
You
me. I'm the
saw
only
a
idiot.
white one, huh?
Yeah, and it was
Wow.
when I came up on it, it was leaning against the tree. It had one arm up against the tree, one arm to its side. It had its leg up on the bank of the road like it was getting ready to run across. And I slowed down and I pulled the window down because I had a Jeep at the time. And windows were tinted, so I pulled the window down and got a better look at it. And it looked at me, and it looked me right in the eyes, and I looked at it, and I got the vibe like it wanted to say something to me, but it didn't. No, I mean, I don't know why that was the vibe I got, and and then when I went past, I tapped my brakes just to light up the road behind me, and I seen it step out and run across the parkway, never
Wow.
thinking I would ever experience another, like never thinking I would ever see a white one to begin with,
I've
it was
heard
the
it's not the
farthest
first
thing from
time
my
I heard
mind.
about that. I've heard people talking about seeing a white one, and it seems to be the white ones are more sighted, the scene over in the east area. So I believe it because I haven't heard
Yeah.
anything on my side. I always hear
Okay.
about the dark and the dark brown and red hair type
Right.
Sasquatch, and then I'm starting to hear. I just learned this recently. I'm starting to hear more about Oregon having a lot of dogman encounters, and tell you the truth, I'm a mountain man. I'm out in the woods a
Okay.
lot.
Okay.
I have had some situations where I felt like something's there watching me, and it didn't feel right. And I've had situations where I smelled something that it almost smelled like death, and I couldn't explain that, couldn't find what it was, and I left the area,
Yeah.
and
When you
so
when they put off that smell, it's usually for one or two reasons. Either they're scared that they're putting off that scent, or they're trying to scare something out of the area because they want to move through.
hmm
So you get that feeling you're hunting in the woods, and you get the feeling that somebody's watching you. You probably are being watched, and if it's not a comfortable feeling, like you almost like you feel like you got to get up and move, and then you smell that skunk or that vile smell.
yeah.
That's basically their way of saying, just get out of this area so I can get by. Maybe they're trying to get by to the other side, and you're in between them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I mean,
I've
because
heard that.
most of the times I've seen them, and I've had one come up on me again up at the sacred site. I took a friend of mine who worked for the Alphabet Agency, and he was looking through his night vision goggles, and he seen one creep up on me within like 7 feet of me, and he was freaking out because he thought this thing was going to grab me or run off with me. And I was like, just chill out, bro. We're at the sacred site. Nothing's going to happen here. And that thing was 7 feet away from me, and I never smelled anything. I didn't even hear it. It was belly crawling up on me. I didn't
Yeah.
even hear it. I didn't smell it. It's the only one I've ever smelled that put off that skunky smell was the one down in Florida, the skunk ape.
hmm
And I think the reason why it let off that really nasty smell was my sister had two large German shepherds that were going nuts when it walked by the house. And I think it was like telling the dogs with that scent gland thing, you better
hmm
back off before, you end up a meal.
Yeah.
But, the dogs being the canine trained, they were like losing their mind trying to get to it. And I was like fighting the dogs trying to get them in the garage because
Yeah.
the dogs weren't scared. But this thing, I'm sure this thing would have just grabbed each one by the neck and snapped their necks. But that was the only time I've ever smelt one. I've never smelt a dog man, and I've never smelt a Bigfoot. And real quick before I let you go,
Yeah.
our last experience out last weekend, we had a dog man go off. He went off one time, and then a pack of coyotes went nuts for like 5 minutes.
Oh yeah.
And then when we were leaving, the same dog man went off again, like 8 hours later.
Wow.
And the coyotes were nowhere to be found then. And I felt like, I don't know if the first one was directed at us or if it was just maybe it went off knowing the coyotes were there, and they thought the coyotes going off would scare us out of the woods, because it's pretty freaky when you hear like 10 coyotes going off all at once in
hmm
the middle of the woods.
hmm
Of course, it didn't scare me off, but that second time when we were coming down off the high ridge, off the high plateau, and we heard it the second time, I felt like that was definitely directed at us. Like, it's time for you guys to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really did. And again, my cousin, God bless him, the kid didn't have any fear in his heart. And but again, he's never seen one of these things up close and personal. So
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I'll
but
tell you what,
I
Al.
got our ass out of there.
I'll tell you what, Al. Everything you just told me tonight, it's a lot to take in, and I'll tell you what, it's been awesome to have you come on the show and
Thank you, man.
listening to all
Appreciate it.
these experiences you had and
These are just tidbits. So these are just the tips of the
oh, I
story of
know,
everything.
I'm gonna have to
So
bring you back for sure. So I'll stay
and like
connected with you. And
a lot of people call bullshit on me, and I tell them all the time. I was like, dude,
oh, they're bullshit.
you could call bullshit on me. I'm a grown man. It doesn't hurt my feelings. But you don't know me, and there's two things about
Oh, I
me.
believe you,
I
man.
don't lie, and I don't steal, and I don't need to embellish any of my stories or my experiences because they're crazy enough just the way they
Well,
are.
the problem with
You know what I
people
mean?
is that they don't open their mind to it, and they won't get the experience of it because they don't believe and they don't open their mind to it. They're
I
too
was having
locked
this
up.
conversation with somebody
So,
today. If you don't believe, you won't experience it either. And
yeah. Well, it's like a shield. They lock themselves up because they don't want to see it or deal with it because they're too either afraid or they don't want to believe there's something like that going
people
on.
are afraid of what they don't understand. You know what I mean? And once you get past that fear, just because you doesn't understand it doesn't mean you need to be afraid of it. Once you get past that fear, you'll be amazed of what you'll experience and what you'll see and what you'll learn.
Yeah,
just if you put yourself out there too.
Well, that's what kind of happened for me, Al. Is that's why I'm doing the show, because I've experienced some things of my own, and that's why I came up with this show, Mountain Man Explore the Truth, because I've seen some things that I'm like, wow, this stuff is going on. I've seen a UFO, I've seen a ghost, and I've possibly seen a Bigfoot, and I can't confirm that because it was so far away, but it was definitely bigger than a man, and yeah, I've talked about it in some of my episodes. You'll probably hear it on my first episode. I believe it was on that I talked about that stuff. And it made me a believer. And I'm like, yeah, there's more to the world than we know. So
I tell people I'm not a believer. I'm a knower.
Yeah, I know. I know they're there. And
I know. Yeah,
I definitely want to experience more of Bigfoot. I want to actually up close encounter so I can, actually back up my experience I had before and know they're there.
Bigfoots will let you know when it's time to leave.
Exactly.
They'll do like if they most of the times when you run across them and they see you, they will just turn and walk the other way. They don't even acknowledge you. They'll see you, you see them, and we freeze because your brain can't comprehend what our eyes are seeing.
Exactly.
It looks at us and it just turns and walks the other way. But if you're at a location and they want to go hunting, or you're in between a mother and its baby and it wants to get across, it will do stuff to let you know it's time for you to leave. It'll grab a tree and shake a tree so violently that that's the sign. It's time for you to leave because I got to get across. Or like that one that broke that tree branch that sounded like a gun going off. You know what I mean? That's the first time I ever experienced that at the sacred site. I knew at that point it was time for us to leave. Like, okay, it's time for us to leave. They want to hunt and we're in their way, and so we have to leave. So I mean, they'll do stuff to let you know. They'll throw rocks.
It's just like anything, you run across a bear, they're gonna let you know, hey, get out of here, before they come and charge you.
So the dog man is a whole different animal. But,
Dog man, I'm not sure, but I'm still investigating. I don't call myself a researcher or investigator, but I want to know. So I guess I am kind of a little bit of both, but I don't know. I don't know what to call myself. I'm just...
Yeah, I call myself, to be honest with you. I don't use the term researcher.
Yeah.
I either say investigator or experiencer.
I'd rather go with that, investigator or experiencer, just going out there experiencing it.
I don't spend a lot of time researching. Online looking for stuff.
Exactly.
And the other thing, if I'm investigating, I'm in the field investigating. I don't consider that researching because I'm in my investigation mode,
Yeah, a lot of researchers like to write down things, and I don't. I'm kind of more a person who goes out there and just record, or if I find something interesting, I'll record it to document for myself, you know. And
yeah, no, absolutely. I stopped putting all of my experiences on our page because people were stealing shit and
yeah,
tweaking it and putting it in books and stuff and making money off of my shit and not asking me if they
yeah,
could use it.
yeah.
And
Be careful with that.
and
Yeah,
that's that. If you're considered a friend of mine and you do that to me, then how you're not really a friend of mine, you know?
yeah. You got to
And
watch
it
out for
burns.
those con man type or con woman. You know,
And
they're out
they'll
there.
take your
So
story and they'll tweak the location, they'll tweak the name of the person. They'll do stuff so that you can't get them on stealing your shit. But you read it, and 99% of it is your experience. So I stopped writing stuff down and stopped putting reports out. I had an editor that edited all my reports and everything, and I stopped putting them out there. And then a lot of people just thought I went away because I'm keeping everything to myself now,
well, that's smart,
So,
Al. You got to share with the ones who are, the same boat as you. You want to experience the stuff and want to know and get your truth out there, and it's your personal experience. So nobody should be stealing your experience.
yeah,
So
I mean, I know people they ask me if they could use my stuff in a book, and I say no. Not that I'm going to write a book. Everybody's asking you to write a book. I'm not writing a book. I'm not an author. There's a zillion books out there. What makes you think that someone wants to read my book? So I don't. But then they get bent out of shape. So, well, you're not going to use it in the book. Why don't you let me use it?
say
Because
no
it's
way.
mine. It's mine.
It's your experience,
What are you going to pay me to use it? Oh, I can't pay you anything, but you're going to make money off of it. You're going to put it in a book and you're going to sell it and you're going to make money off of my experience. Then you're going to go to symposium and talk about my experiences again and get paid, make money, and I'm not getting anything. And they say, well, I'll make you famous. Like, no, you're not going to make me famous because the paranormal community is like 1% of the world's community. You know what I mean? A
Yeah.
tenth, it's a point of 1%. And I said, you're not going to make me. And then they get bent out of shape. I mean, they get mad and they stop talking to me because they're mad because I won't let them use my shit.
Yeah. Well, I've experienced some people out there that had encounters, supposedly encounters. I didn't put them on my show. I recorded it and did the show with them, but there was a lot of red flags. And then once I heard their story on these big time podcasters, I started pointing out all the red flags. And I'm the type explores the truth, right? So some of these people, I can tell they were bullshit. And I decided to stay away from that because you could tell that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to go for the cashin money, and I get it. You got to make a living on your podcast and stuff like that, but I'm doing it as a hobby, and who knows, maybe I will make money off it down the road. But it's my dream.
There's nothing wrong in making money and doing something you love.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't have to steal other people's
or make up stories. Exactly.
Yeah, or make up bullshit. I mean, I recently I've been promoted from state director of the North American Dogman Project to regional director, right? So now I cover the whole from Maine down to Maryland or some shit, right?
Yeah.
And I got friends that are other directors in other states or regional directors, but are all newbies, And the guys that I really like, I'll take under my wing, and I'll tell them little tidbits, and I'll tell them stuff that most people don't know about, and I'll say, this is how if you're going to do a podcast, you're going to be going, this is how you vet these people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if they're not telling you what I'm telling you, then they're full of shit. And one guy sent me a video about a dog man in a window turning a knob of some house. And I told the dude, I said, there are so many red flags in that video. I said, if you want me to explain it to you, I will. I said, but there's like 20 red flags in there. And he's like, where? Tell me. And when I told him all the red flags, he was like, dude, you broke that down so great. That's amazing. He goes, now I know. I said, yeah, and that's why I'm telling you. I said, so now you know what to look for, and people sending you fake videos. I went to school for photography back in the day,
Yeah.
And I know when it comes to lighting and shadows and shit like that, and
Yeah.
there was just too much. There was just way too many red flags in this video for it to be legit, you know. And when I pointed them all out to my friend, he was like, "Oh my God, Al, that's amazing. That was great." I was like, "Well, you know what? I've been doing this a long time, and I don't like bullshit artists. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can usually, 10 minutes into an interview, I usually know if they're full of shit or not. You know what I mean?"
Oh yeah, that's
And
how I am. I'll keep it going. Or the thing with me is I'll cut you really short if I feel like it's BS. And when we're going longer than an hour, that's telling you I believe you. And for other people that want to come on the show, that's how I go. I mean, if I'm going to cut you short, which is like, let's say 20 minutes or 30 minutes, then I ain't buying it. But if we're past an hour, I'm believing
that's
you.
one of my famous sayings. I'm not buying it. It really is. I say that all the time. I'll either say I'm calling bullshit on this,
but I'll let them express what they got to say. But once I find those I gotten familiar with the red flags. I mean, I've seen a lot of cast footprints that I go, no, that's just a mud smeared footprint. That's not a footprint. I don't know. There's a lot of people out there that they just want to get famous, and I get that, but don't be fake about it. Show something that's true, you know?
Yeah, but you know what it is? It's easier to fake something than to actually put the time in and do the research.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I said, I was in the woods last Saturday night. It was 21 degrees. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And we were there for like 8 hours.
Wow.
You know, I tell my son, oh, that's bullshit. My boss said, come with me. You think I'm full of shit? Come with me. Oh, yeah. I'm not walking.
Take you out for the experience.
I can't 4 miles in the woods and sitting there for 8 hours, freezing my ass off at 21 degrees. Then stop bitching.
You know, this is another question I have to ask you, Al. Is you seem to be out there a lot. Do you ever have experience with feral people?
You
ever heard about them?
Yes, I've heard about them. Yes, but I've never experienced.
Yeah, that's another whole topic to get into down the road, because I've been hearing a lot of stories about that. I'm like interested in that.
Really?
Yeah, I hear a lot going on with feral people down in Tennessee. I think parts of Georgia and in Alabama area. But yeah, definitely heard a lot about it.
A lot of people live in the woods these days that, you know, are either in tents or makeshift canopies and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Well, these ones are people that are actually out there and just got away from the world. They're just living off the land and they're wild. They're like wild people. So I've definitely heard.
Thank God I never run into one of them.
Yeah, it'd be kind of creepy to run into a wild person.
Yeah, especially if you run into a group of them and you're by yourself.
Yeah, yeah. Well, Al, I guess
you better be packing that night. That's for sure.
Yeah, I guess we better end it here. We're almost at 2 hours, man. That's going to be a good episode for somebody to listen to. So,
well, thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, I really enjoyed hearing your experience.
You want me back on, man, just reach out to me and you got me.
Oh yeah, I'll bring you back on. I want to hear more. So,
all right, thank you very much.
Thanks for coming on, man.
No problem, brother. Anytime.
Take care.
Ciao.
Well, everybody, I hope you enjoyed that episode. Having Al coming on, talking about all his experience was pretty amazing, man. There was some questions I wanted to ask in the middle, but I forgot. I didn't want to interrupt him. It was amazing hearing all the details of these experiences he had in the void. It almost sounded like a portal type thing, but maybe not. He was definitely experienced a lot of weird, strange things when it comes to Sasquatch and all these other things. It sounds like Al has a lot of stuff to talk about, and I'm definitely going to be bringing him back on the show. I really hope you enjoyed it. I know we're hit at about 1 hour and 48 minutes, almost 49 minutes, so almost 2 hours. So I hope you bear it to the end and enjoy the episode, because I don't think anybody should miss that. It was all over the place, and I really enjoyed it, and it had my mind going boom, 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 boom all over the place, because there was some questions I wanted to ask, but I forget. Definitely going to have Al come back on the show. Thanks, Al, for coming on, and And if anybody's had any experience of any strange, weird encounters with Bigfoot, Dogman, paranormal, on conspiracy theories, you name it, anything, it's welcome on the show, guys. Don't be afraid to hit me up. You can find me on Facebook. You can look for Blake Botel, Botel, or look for Mountain Man Explorer the Truth. There's a group page. You can contact me through there. You can also email me at mountainmanett@gmail.com. Again, mountainmanett@gmail.com. So make sure you put Mountain Man and ETT together and then at gmail.com. And be sure to reach me, guys. I'll love to bring you on the show and talk about your experience or encounter or whatever. So you're welcome to come on. So yeah, guys, that was awesome. That was an awesome episode with Al. I really enjoyed having him on. Definitely be more to come. I'm going to definitely bring him back for part 2, part 3. Who knows? He can go on. He's got a lot. So on that note, subscribe on YouTube. Follow on Spotify. Look for Mountain Man Explore the Truth on Spotify. If you're watching this on YouTube, and if you're listening to it on Spotify, check it out on YouTube and hit subscribe. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed. So until next time, let's explore the truth together. Thanks for hanging in there. Have a good night, guys.